Good afternoon to those that are watching. Welcome to TNN's Facebook Live, State of Affairs on the Road of our monthly one-on-one with the Minister of Public Works and Environment, the Honorable Jache Adams. Minister, welcome.
Thank you, Trevor. I appreciate it and actually look forward to our monthly updates, not only to see and speak with you, but also to communicate and be transparent with our audience as to where we are within the ministry.
Good stuff. Today in the Senate,
Yes.
I've been made to understand that the Single-Use Plastics Act was passed. Mm-hmm. Your thoughts?
I think this is obviously, I'm excited about it. The House passed it on Friday, and excited to hear that the Senate has passed this piece of legislation today. I think it's important for persons to understand that what this piece of legislation is ultimately is a framework. And so if I can sort of put it into simplify it a bit, it just allows the minister that is responsible for the environment to prohibit single-use plastics. And we have a list or a schedule, if you will, of those items. And when I say a framework, it's because we recognize that that schedule, that list of items is currently empty. And what the government has said we will do is we will immediately begin consultation out with the public to better understand and be able to frame an implementation strategy as to how and when we populate that schedule. So it's coming, but we want to take a measured approach. We want to take a phased approach when it comes to single-use plastics. I mean, the reality is that the data is clear. Mm-hmm. The data is clear on the harmful effects that plastic is having on not just our bodies, but our oceans and overall our environment. And so it would be prudent on this government, and this government has made the decision to actually progress forward with this.
Some might hear single-use plastics and think the government is about to ban everything overnight, everything plastic overnight. What is the case? Is this the case?
No, absolutely not. That is not the case. In fact, some of the criticism, if you will, is that we're taking too long and too gradual and too phased of approach. Some would like for us to begin the population almost immediately. But the reality is that the government has committed to taking a phased approach. In fact, we have also stated in my statement in my brief on Friday that the first items that will be added to the list are designed to be the least impactful items, because we recognize ultimately what we're really talking about is change behavior. Mm. And you and I both know that change behavior often faces resistance. Mm-hmm. And so what we're trying to do is not necessarily disrupt the system, if you will, but rather to take a gradual and phased approach. And so we did not add anything to the list. We will consult and get a better understanding and temperature check, if you will, not just what individuals, but businesses, retailers, wholesalers, and the like. How can we ensure that this is the least disruptive that it can be, recognizing that we're still looking to push forward with it?
And your first reply earlier was the harmful effects that plastic has on, we know the environment, the ocean, but on we as human beings. Where do you base your data, especially when it comes to the body? Where do you base your data from?
So the statistics are there. A great example is Beyond Plastics. If you ever go on their website, they do a fantastic job in sort of articulating some of the harmful effects that single-use plastics and plastics in general is having, not just on the environment, but as I said, on our bodies, on our ocean, even our economy. I mean, many of us know, and in fact, we all know that we live in a society that depends on our tourism. And we know that tourists come to Bermuda expecting clean beaches. And so these are just some of the other knock-on effects that plastics and single-use plastics are affecting us. And it's not just, the environment. It's not just our bodies, but also our economy as well.
Let's move on. We're going to talk about the roadside vegetation. Minister, you have a new machine to control roadside vegetation. What exactly is that?
Yeah, so let's start with, I've been in the role for just over a year plus. And one of the biggest obstacles that I faced last year was large vegetation growth. There were a lot of complaints, people that were upset at the state of the railway trails or the roadside vegetation and the like. And there are reasons for it. But a significant reason for it is because a particular herbicide that we were using several years ago was just simply deemed to be unsafe and it was harmful. Mm-hmm. And so the Department of Environment and Natural Resources effectively prohibited us from continuing using that particular herbicide. And so for years, we have been trying to find a suitable, effective alternative. Mm-hmm. And we just had not done so. I think we had tried 12 to possibly 13 alternative options in various forms to try to find ways to better control roadside vegetation. With that being said, we now have purchased a new machine. It's called the Foam Stream, I believe, is what it's referred to. But effectively, it is a way for us to environmentally friendly, in an environmentally friendly way, address roadside vegetation. Effectively, it uses a bit of hot water, steam, and foam, and the combination and a number of other environmentally friendly products in order to address this roadside vegetation. So we've been using it for several weeks. Mm. I think the important piece to note is that this is not the government saying that we found the answer. Mm. This is the government saying we've tried, this is our latest trial. And thus far, things actually look to be encouraging. And so we'll give it a few more weeks to really be in a position to say with a level of confidence that this does then work. And if it does, then we'll look to buy more machines and possibly bigger machines. But this is significant for us because the trials that we've been using and doing all this time, very quickly we can tell it hasn't worked, or it's not working, or there's side effects that are not desired. But thus far, I think the few weeks that we've been using this thus far, all of that has been alleviated, and we are encouraged with what we're seeing thus far.
So this new material, new solution, is it killing the weeds?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, yes, it's killing the weeds without question. The intent is for it to actually get down into the root and kill the root. And that is what we need time in order to assess its effectiveness. But it's not just that. It's also the appropriate process as well. So it would be incorrect for us to use this particular piece of machinery the same way for every piece of grass, every piece of vegetation. There has to be certain processes. So, for example, the way you would apply it on cane grass would be different than how you would apply it on just, the grass that comes out of your curbside. And so it's, understanding that level of nuances. But effectively, without question, it is killing the plant. What we now need to be able to assess is it getting deep enough and actually killing the root? And if it does seem to kill the root, or at the very least, mitigate or stunt the growth of that root, I think we'll be in good stead to sort of really begin to address a lot of the roadside vegetation and railway trails and the like.
Why is this kind of machine needed in Bermuda? And what is the financial cost of such a machine?
Ooh, gracious, financial cost. Now you've done it. I had to come back to you. I don't know it off by hand, but I will say it was it was mitigated. So what I mean is we could have bought a larger machine. We could have bought a larger machine. We could have bought multiple ones, but the idea was to sort of bring a smaller version, if you will, for the trial run. And if it is deemed to be successful, we'll buy the larger ones. Why is it needed? I think we just live in a country that, people have a level of standard that they are used to. And it is necessary for us to find ways to address vegetation in the most efficient manner that we can. We have not been able to do so over the last few years, and for the reasons that I explained, and encouraged at the direction that we're going.
This sounds like a machine that's going to be utilized on the roadsides, on the main roads. But what about the trails, the individuals that there's private driveways? How do they get assistance?
Yeah, so private driveways is a bit different, but certainly railway trails, it is within our control. So effectively, it is something that will be government owned, and we will use it on all government properties.
Are you saying that this machine will solve roadside vegetation?
That is not what I'm saying. Again, this is a trial run, so it would be premature for me to suggest that this is the silver bullet that will fix all of our problems. What I can say without question is that we're encouraged by the results, and we'll continue to use it and make assessments thereafter. But things do look promising, so I don't want to sell it as though this is the answer. But I also want us to feel encouraged that it appears that we're heading in the right direction.
Okay, let's move on. We're going to talk about Sessions House, Coast Guard Station in Mangrove Bay. Minister Sessions House has been vacated for some time. What is the latest on this building? And that was a question I was going to ask you on Friday.
Okay.
And for some reason, it evaded me until I just done an interview right at the location. So it came right back to me.
Absolutely.
Then I'll be going to restore Bermuda's Landmark Sessions House.
Awesome. So I did mention this in my Friday statement. Where we are in the process is immediately after the Bermuda Day holiday, we will commence internal demolition. So that's demonstration that progress is happening. It's no longer standing still, that we are progressing forward with internal demolition. Whilst the internal demolition is taking place, we will then issue an RFP, put it out to tender, if you will, for bidders to begin to bid on the sort of wider full contract of renovating Sessions House. But as you can appreciate, the internal demolition is necessary in order for the bidders to understand the work that is required to actually renovate and restore Sessions House to what we remember it to be. Without question, Sessions House is an historic building, not just for practical use as the House of Parliament, but symbolically. It's an important building. It's the building of the oldest legislature in our hemisphere. And so it, even now at its current state, I often see tours that come to Sessions House to see it. And so it is a symbolic landmark. And so it is prudent and it's important for the government to see it restored back to the standard that we're used to. So I am proud to say that work will commence immediately after the holiday. And so whilst that work is happening, we're going out to RFP. Bidders will be in a position to bid to do the wider contract. And so I would say it is certainly within reason and within our expectation that the contractor, the successful contractor, will have signed that contract this year, and works will commence this year for the wider project. But work is happening and will happen after the holiday.
How long would you project the renovation, restoration process of this landmark would take?
It's going to take about, I would say, roughly 3 years. The estimate says 3 to 5. So there's so many things, right? So, for example, all of us know who do renovations or have done renovations. Sometimes you just don't know until you've actually ripped it all apart. There could be things that you just didn't realize, or you often find out the situation is worse than you had anticipated and whatnot. So time frames is always difficult in my ministry. I get that people often ask me and sort of want a sort of a better understanding. But I live in a world where things happen, right? But certainly, to sort of answer your question and be transparent, we certainly expect, by 3 to 5 years, I would say 3 to 4 years is a reasonable expectation, for us to, have Sessions House back fully renovated and Parliament, move back into where it rightfully belongs.
That would have been my next question, so you answered it for me. So the Parliament will be moving back to where it should be.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, listen, I can attest, right? I've been a politician for now going on 6 years, and I have yet to have a Sessions House. And I think of some of my colleagues who were MPs who would have never gotten the opportunity to sit in Sessions House. So I do feel a bit of pressure. Not pressure, probably not the word, but I do feel a bit of emphasis to try to get this project done, and this and other projects. So I don't want to suggest that this is the primary focus, but it is a focus, and it is something that we're happy is recommencing.
Minister, any thought of bringing some of the underutilized government buildings back up to standard?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is Sessions House is an example, but I often hear individuals who can point to underutilized buildings, and I hear the suggestions that people come up with and what they would like. But I want people to know that we are actively pursuing and progressing with repurposing some of our underutilized buildings. We're pleased with the work that is done on what used to be the St. David's Post Office building, which has now been repurposed and made into the East End Coast Guard Station. So here is an example of a building that was underutilized for quite some time, that the government has now invested in, renovated, repurposed, and now it has a practical use. Now we're in a position to have better marine response times in the Eastern End because of this investment that we've made. Similarly, on the opposite end of the island, we've repurposed the Mangrove Bay Clinic on Mangrove Bay. Again, an underutilized building for quite some time that we've invested in, repurposed, and now have restored, or in the process of restoring, a medical clinic there. That I know the residents within the West have been calling for quite some time. And so I would let the Minister of National Security and the Minister of Health speak to the benefits of having those services in those particular areas. From the Minister of Public Works' perspective, this is demonstration that we are investing in our assets and returning them and restoring them and allowing them to be used for practical use for the benefit of the country. And so we're excited about that.
Minister, any thoughts of, or has there been any dialogue with yourself and the Minister of Housing and taking one of those old school buildings and refurbishing and fixing up for low cost or even emergency housing? We have a very large population of homeless persons. Any thoughts? Any discussion on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we all sit around a cabinet table and we all have to work collaboratively. I am absolutely proud of and excited of the work that the Deputy Premier is doing on the housing. I think a couple of weeks ago, we released the housing strategy of exactly the plan forward in terms of addressing the housing crisis, because the reality is there is no sort of backing away from a government perspective the fact that we have a housing issue. That is exactly why we now have a minister solely or primarily focused on addressing housing in the country. And so we do work collectively and collaboratively on ways that we can get this accomplished. However, and I will make this note, that you will and the public will recall that the Minister of Education has caused for a pause on education reform. And that just simply means that it's difficult to make plans until basically those schools are still under the remit of education primarily. And so we wait for the minister to sort of create and establish the path for education reform going forward. And from there, we'll be in a position to know exactly what buildings are available and what we can do with those buildings. But certainly, the discussions are had amongst all ministers, on how we can, because, I can sit here and absolutely tell you that housing is something that needs to be addressed. But I can also tell you that I, as Minister of Public Works, want to ensure that we have facilities that are prepared and ready for education as well, because education and education reform, in my belief, is an important factor as well.
I challenge you and the Minister of Education, especially on the education reform. We still have that low birth rate. We don't have enough students to fill the schools, but we have a housing crisis. So why make those that are homeless suffer because of a reform being paused?
Yeah, no, so I wouldn't say, I think we're a bit, I would not say that.
Too far ahead?
No. What I'm saying is that the schools are in the remit of education. Education is in the process of assessing their education reform. At the same time, that does not mean it's mutually exclusive. The minister responsible for housing has a strategy, has a program that he is progressing forward with. And so we can expect housing to be erected in the not so distant future. We've established it. We've publicly stated it. You're asking me, I think the initial question was, are we looking to use schools for those housing? And I'm expressing to you that we would not be in a position to say publicly our intent for those housing until the Minister of Education is sure and confident on the path for education reform.
Okay, I'll leave. I don't have the more supplementaries. I'll leave that right there. Let's move on to the swing bridge. How is the swing bridge replacement project looking?
Actually, I am quite pleased with the progress that we are making when it comes to swing bridge. Quite pleased, actually. The RFP is already out. You're going to test my memory. I believe it is June or July-ish. Well, June will be next month. So I believe it's July-ish that the RFP will close. Don't quote me. It's either June or July that it will close. So the RFP is out there. So, we are in the stage where we are encouraging bidders to bid on the project. So it's gone through the planning. It's been approved. We're now effectively put it out there for bidders to bid on the project. This is important because ultimately it's the process that needs to take place publicly for us to ultimately select a contractor who will begin that project. A key piece to this is that the government has insisted that there must be some form of local participation within this project. That is key. That is this government establishing that locals must have some form of economic benefit from this large project. And so as a testament to that, on May 8th, we had a networking event where we had 12 overseas bidders come down to the island and actually meet with 18 local contractors. And they were basically learning each other, if you will, and networking to ultimately, because any bidder, and this is the key, any bidder that bids on the project has to demonstrate how they are going to ensure that there's local participation. So we're sort of put them in contact with each other. And so as we expect bids to receive, as we expect bids to come in over the next few weeks, it would be important for them to demonstrate exactly how they're going to use those local contractors.
This new bridge, how does that fit and work with the marine environment, especially for the boaters? How is that going to look?
Yeah, I mean, it's an absolute, it's a modern bridge. I will say this now that, the feature of, it being able to open up, will be a part of this, new bridge. So the swing bridge will swing open, once again. And so, yes, larger vessels, will be able to, get through, that, particular channel. And so, there's a range of, things, whether it be, the buyer's boat, that is stationed there, very big boats, the buyers and other large boats, can effectively, save a lot of time, if you will, as a result of the bridge now swinging open. It's a new feature that we're excited about. It has all of the modern bells and whistles. It is, designed to assist. It is designed to, handle weather is what I was trying to go, whether it be hurricanes and the like. And so, yeah, we're happy with it. The current swing bridge has long served its shelf life. And so I just want the public to be able to see and feel that progress is happening. We are now communicating to the public, and I'll use this as an opportunity, if you don't mind, to communicate to the public that there's going to be some teething pains when it comes to this, in particular, when it comes to traffic and rerouting traffic. The reality is that there's going to have to be a massive, site preparation, that is needed before we can actually begin the construction of, such a large, bridge. So we're talking, a place for, big machines and big containers and the like. And so as a result, we're going to have to reroute and redirect traffic for a period, for some time. But ultimately, I think we all as a community can agree that, it is for the greater good, that we all see the value in having a new swing bridge, on the island, particularly the residents on the eastern end of the country. They can see value in that. And so, these teething pains is what I'm going to call them, will be temporary. It is not permanent solutions, but it is necessary in order for us to progress forward.
Lastly, as a producer, just give me the 5-minute cue. Minister, you made a statement on Friday. And as soon as you started your presentation, I thought of your father. You spoke of, you clarified the king, the king and the first king to come into Bermuda.
Yes.
I know that must have been a moment, a watershed moment for you. Thinking of your father as you made the presentation.
Yeah, it's funny. I think, the first parts was really, I promise you, it was just focused on sort of setting the record straight, right? And truth is truth. The reality is what it is. But there was a moment, and I expressed to you earlier, whilst I was delivering the remarks, if anybody wants to hear it again, particularly in the early portion, there was a moment where my voice started to crack. And the reason was, someone sort of, whispered to me and said, your father would be proud. And, that caught me off guard, and that certainly made me emotional, because I could almost see him smiling, you know what I mean? I could, as well as I do, I could see him, and just his body language and probably the vibe that he had, knowing that was going. And so, I give you this. You didn't expect me to say this, but my last thing that I ever said to him was that I said to him, I'm going to make you proud. And he always said to me, he said, you already have. So I'll continue that legacy as far as I continue.
We want to thank you for joining us. On that note, Minister, Thank you. Yeah. Your grandfather will be proud of you too, because you're really sounding like a real politician in your delivery, your quick wit, and your thought patterns. So your grandfather will be proud as well. But thinking of your father, Auntie was my boy, as we've always talked.
Absolutely.
And thank you for joining us. Thank you for the opportunity, Minister,
Absolutely.
to watch you grow.
I appreciate it, man.
And you take your footing in the political arena. Bermuda, we want to thank you for joining us for State of Affairs. We're on the road with the Minister of Public Works and Environment. I had to get that right. The Honorable Jache Adams. Minister?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's do it again next month.
Yes, sir. Thank you for joining us.